Well, Tynwald is taking their recess at lunch, and I've got hold of Rob Callister because you've seen the interview I did with Julie Edge talking about radio coverage of the TT, and that was this morning, and obviously since then the question has been asked. So two things first, your response to the interview.
Well, I think the interview itself was lacking a bit of detail, and I'm happy to provide that today if that's what you're wanting. I mean, as you say, we now have a live tender, so I've got to be very careful on what I actually discussed that. But as you say, it wasn't the case that we've been forced to make the decision. Tynwald made a direction after a lot of deliberation over a long period of time in respect of the future of Manx Radio. I've personally gone on the record before and I said, you know, the historic connection between Manx Radio and the event with the TT and the classic TT and the Manx Grand Prix has gone on since the early 60s. So it's a personal thought that I felt that the connection should have stayed going into the future, and for the Department for Enterprise and for the radio station to actually find a way forward. Tynwald decided that wasn't the case. It should now go out to tender because it's got to the limit of financial regs. That tender is now out, and those expressions of interest close on the 29th of November. So I'm happy to accept that. I will not be taking part in the procurement, and I will not take any part in the final political decision at the end of it.
Okay, timing-wise though, you said the thing was going to tender just as her question went in. Was that just pure chance?
It was absolutely pure chance.
Really?
I promise you that. It was held back because...
Seems a bit odd, doesn't it?
No, I think Miss Edge actually knew that it had gone. It was going out prior to that. It had been held back a couple of times because of some questions being asked of the AG's chambers. I think we've had the tender actually drafted for over 18 months, 2 years. What we've been waiting for is Tynwald to deliberate and to tell us exactly what Manx Radio's future is going to look like. That process is now finished. Tynwald, obviously I tabled an amendment. That amendment failed. Tynwald made a very clear direction, and that direction also was supported by Miss Edge, and that was to go out to tender. We are now at the tender process.
Is a realistic period here to get things in place for anybody else to really tender? Do you think it's just really going to be, I mean, it seems the obvious place that Manx Radio to have it, so I mean...
Yeah, and I heard that part of the interview. What I've done is I've pushed very quickly since the Tynwald sitting to get this tender out, to get some idea of expressions of interest. What will actually happen is once those expressions of interest are received, the procurement team and the motorsport team will go through them, they will look at them, they will end up appointing somebody. Then they will have a few months leading up to the TT 2020 to implement that strategy and obviously the programme as well.
So there wasn't much point in her asking that question today when you'd already put out the tender. I mean, was there something more to it that we don't know about?
Well, again, I'll be perfectly honest, I thought the question had been withdrawn. That was what the department was led to believe last week. That we had a department meeting that the question had been withdrawn because we'd already put the tender out.
Are you confident that some tendering process will take place and whatever happens, somebody will get the security of, I think, is it 5 years?
It's a 5-year contract. As I say, I'm not taking part in the procurement itself. Yeah. This is a robust tender. And as I say, I'm sure I have faith and confidence in the procurement team and our motorsport team to go through that process. I'm personally, and this again is my personal concerns, is at the end of that process that we get somebody new, and then I have to pick up whatever that decision is at the end of it. And the political decision was I'll not be involved in, but I will have to pick up that decision and implement it come in ahead of 2020 TT.
But you made it very clear you'd like Manx Radio to have it. I mean, that's clear, right?
That was a personal view based on the historic connection with the event.
Could you work with other operators necessarily?
Absolutely. I will have to help implement whatever the end result is. As I say, I'm not taking part of the process. I'll just repeat that again. Okay. I will not take part in the political decision at the end of it. What I will have to do as the member responsible for motorsport is to work with the successful bidder to implement a programme ahead for TT 2020.